Hey everybody, Ketwolski here, checking in with another one of our hashtag Star Trek discussions videos. Today we're going to be talking about what if Shinzon killed Picard. This is going to be the first video and hopefully a very long running series where I discuss a couple of what if scenarios. If things had played out a little bit differently, what could have happened to the Star Trek universe. So today, like I said, we're going to be talking about what happens if Shinzon killed Picard at the end of Star Trek Nemesis and actually completed the blood transfusion that he needed in order to survive. What would the universe look like without Picard and the Enterprise and a ruthless, badass Praetor at the head of the Romulan Star Empire? So let's jump right into this. So after the destruction of the Federation's flagship, the legendary Captain Picard, and the iconic Enterprise, I think it's fair to assume that the Federation as a whole would declare war on the Romulan Star Empire. Not something that the Federation has been known to do in the past, but I feel like under the circumstances, the fact that they lured the flagship and the crew under false pretenses of peace out there just to murder them and literally suck the blood out of Jean-Luc Picard, I think it's definitely fair to say that the Federation is not going to take that lightly, and I don't think they're going to take it laying down. I do think that a large armada of not just, Earth Starfleet ships, but also of Klingon Defense Forces and, Andorians, Vulcans, just an armada of different ships, even some Cardassian ships, whatever they've got left. I think that they're going to come together and actually try to invade and destroy the Romulan Star Empire. Do something that I think a lot of nations and organizations and governments inside of the Star Trek universe have been wanting to do for a long time, especially the Klingons and the Federation. But Shinzon, of course, isn't going to take that lying down. He's not just going to start a war with the Federation and then not back that threat up and not back up the fact that he has, this badass ship. Now, do I think that he would eventually use the Thalaron weapon against Earth just to wipe out the population? No, I don't. I actually do think that he would use it to destroy the majority of the fleets, especially since the Federation is unaware of really what happened to not only the Romulan Senate, but also the Enterprise. They don't know that Shinzon has Thalaron weapon. They may be able to detect some radiation bits, they may be able to detect certain parts of that, but they don't know for sure that he actually has the Thalaron weapon on board of the Scimitar. So they're going to definitely throw everything they've got at one large engagement to try to take out Shinzon, and he's going to use that weapon, and he's probably going to decimate the Federation's fleet, especially the Klingons. So the rest of the Federation alliance may hold back, but the Klingons definitely are going to roll in as hard as they possibly can, and they're going to get wiped out. That's just a fact. Everybody here knows it. That's just what it is. So the bulk of the Romulan fleet's going to be saved. They're actually going to take probably most of that fleet and engage the remainder of Starfleet's vessels, and most likely cripple them with either the Thalaron weapon or just simply the fact that the Scimitar itself is a really dangerous ship, even without the Thalaron weapon. I mean, it took out 2 Mogai Warbirds and the Enterprise, and was still 90% functional. Like, it still could activate the Thalaron weapon, and it was still working even after Picard crashed his Enterprise into it. So to say that that ship could easily destroy the majority of whatever fleet is remaining after the initial fight is fair to say. Now that you have a formidable Romulan Star Empire zipping around the galaxy, they've probably invaded most of the Beta and Alpha quadrants. I would say that they have indeed reached a brokered peace accord with the remainder of the Federation world, with the Federation as a whole. Again, I don't think that they're going to use the Thalaron weapon because really the Romulans want to subjugate the Federation worlds. They don't want to just kill them all. They want to make sure that there's no threats and quash any kind of issues there, but they do want to subjugate the people in the Federation, whether through mining or for slave labor or, just for, whatever, human trafficking, whatever the reason. They want to subjugate these people across millions of people across thousands of worlds. So they most likely will reach a peace accord with the Federation that will involve basically bending the knee to the Romulan Star Empire. I think that they will then fold in the Federation. They will most likely dissolve the Federation government, destroy a lot of the shipyards that they have if they don't want to just take them over. They will definitely most likely destroy Earth space dock after taking whatever resources they want out of it. They will blow that up just for a symbolic reason. They're definitely going to bombard Starfleet Academy from space and destroy that and level it to the ground. Just again, because for symbolic sakes, just to crush the spirit of anyone who's left in the Federation. I do think that there's going to be an underground resistance. I also don't think that Kronos is going to take the fact that they lost the majority of their KDF lying down either. I think that they're going to learn from their mistakes, as hard as it is for Klingons to learn. I think that they're going to re-attack and engage in warrior-like skirmishes with the Romulans throughout the Alpha and Beta quadrants, and I think that they will most likely work with the underground resistance movement that will form, no doubt, from the falling out of the Federation. And I think that that's not just going to be those from Earth. I think it's going to be people from all walks of the Federation's huge charter and huge, dossier of planets. But I think mainly it's going to be headed up by former Starfleet officers, specifically former Starfleet admirals that survived, the majority of the onslaughts. And they're going to be taking these junior officers and these volunteers and trying to turn them into a underground resistance fighting force. Do I think that they're going to be able to eventually destroy Shinzon? Not outright. I do think that this conflict will eventually come to a head when Romulans from the inside cause an external strife between the two. I think that there's going to be a Romulan civil war, not because of the fact that they took over, the Federation, but because the Remans and Shinzon are leading the Romulan people. And yes, they were able to defeat the Federation, which is something they've always wanted to do, but they don't want to be led by these second-class, second-tier, cannon fodder citizens. So I do think that the Romulan elites will then probably marry up with the resistance movements and whatever's left of the the Klingon defense forces, and then use that as like big battle plan to actually overthrow and defeat Shinzon in the end. I do think that there will be a threat that Shinzon may potentially even try to use the Phaelon weapon against Romulus, just to make a point, but I do think that in the end everybody will stop him and then he will be defeated. And now you're going to have three fractured kind of governments: a Klingon defense force that's fractured, the remainder of the Federation forces that with the underground resistance movements trying to rebuild the Federation, and now you've got a war-torn Romulus and Romulan Star Empire that probably is still warring with itself because of the fact that now their Praetor was destroyed, and a lot of people would just join up with the Praetor just because that's who they respect the position as opposed to the person. But now you're going to have conflict in that area. So I think that at the end, you're going to deal with a huge situation where there's no strong governments. The Klingons are basically brought to their knees. The Federation's dissolved and gone, and they're trying to potentially rebuild Earth and trying to rebuild that whole thing. And the Romulans are still fighting with each other, and there's no end in sight to that. I do think that that's pretty much how this situation would end. I think that if Shinzon was able to defeat Picard and go on with his plans, I do think that his subjugation of the universe would eventually lead to an underground resistance movement, a civil war in Romulus, and then everything being fractured and falling apart, and then him dying in the end anyways. Just because, that's just what happens when you have a dictator. An emperor is going to get overthrown. That's just the way it is. So anyways, guys and gals, I hope that you enjoyed my what-if scenario. I know it didn't really end on a happy note. I don't foresee the Romulans, Klingons, and Federation resistance forces working together in the future. I think that most likely it's just going to dissolve, the Alpha Beta quadrants are just going to dissolve into mayhem for at least the next 100 or so years until maybe they come back from that. But that's just my what-if scenario. I hope that you guys and gals enjoyed it. I'm curious to hear what you folks think would happen if Shinzon was able to kill Picard and complete the blood transfusion. What would the universe look like in your mind? This was my interpretation and my feelings on the idea, but I'm really curious to hear what everybody else would think about it. So please throw a like and a subscribe up on YouTube. Follow me on Twitter at RealKetwolski and RealKetwolski. Follow me on Twitter at RealKetwolski. I haven't done this in a while. Follow me on Twitter at RealKetwolski, and follow me on Facebook at Facebook.com/RealKetwolski. And I will see you guys next time. Live long and prosper, my Trekkies.